Clemson fans, you're making a huge mistake. In the last couple years, the noise has gotten louder with fans saying, "Fire Dabo, he's past his prime, and Clemson needs to move on." But here's the reality. Dabo Swinney is one of the greatest coaches in college football history, not just Clemson history, all of college football. And the idea that he should be run out of town is not only wrong, it's ungrateful, and it's setting Clemson up for disaster if the fans don't realize what they've got before it's gone.
If they want me gone, if they tired of winning, they can send me on their way, because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. I don't know if that's good or not. To win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, to be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we're a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory, in case y'all don't know.
This clip tells you everything. He's not wrong to be annoyed. He's literally the reason Clemson expects greatness in the first place. Let's take a step back to before Dabo Swinney. Clemson wasn't bad, but they weren't this. From the early 1990s to the late 2000s, Clemson was a program that might win 8 or 9 games, maybe finish ranked, maybe not. They were fine, respectable, but nationally, they weren't feared. They weren't in the playoff hunt. They weren't Alabama. They weren't Ohio State. Then came Dabo. He took over in 2008, not as some superstar hire, but as a guy who'd never even been a coordinator. And since then, he's completely transformed what Clemson football means. 2 national championships, 6 playoff appearances, 8 ACC titles, multiple Heisman finalists, and he's done it without being at a traditional football power. Clemson isn't Alabama with a century of dominance. They're not Ohio State with a wide recruiting pipeline. What Dabo built was unprecedented. Here's the irony of it all. The only reason fans are upset now is because of what Dabo accomplished. If you took the exact same records Clemson has had the last couple seasons, 10-3, 9-4, 10-4, and gave those to Clemson fans in the Tommy Bowden era, they would have thrown a parade. Those were dream seasons before Dabo. But now, they're seen as failures. Why? Because Dabo raised the bar so high. Because of him, Clemson fans now expect to be in the playoff every year, to win the ACC easily, to be competing for national titles, and when they don't get that, they call for his job. That's not just unfair, it's delusional. Let's talk about how hard it actually is to do what Dabo did. Winning national titles is not normal. Nick Saban made it look easy, but it's not. Only a handful of active coaches have even had 1 championship, and Dabo is one of only 2 active coaches who have won 2. That's rarefied air. And look at the landscape now. The transfer portal has changed everything. NIL has changed everything. The playoff has expanded. Clemson doesn't have the same natural advantages as an Alabama, a Georgia, or even an Ohio State. They don't sit in a state loaded with 5 stars. They have to fight for every recruit. And yet Dabo still built Clemson into the program of the 2010s. The fans who are calling for his head are ignoring that reality. Now let's be honest. Clemson hasn't been perfect the last couple years. The offense has struggled. They've missed the playoffs. And some of Dabo's philosophies, like not using the transfer portal aggressively, have drawn criticism. But here's the thing. Even in these so-called down years, Clemson is still winning 9 to 10 games. They're still competing at the top of the ACC. They're still nationally relevant. Most programs would beg for that. Ask Florida State fans what the post-Jimbo Fisher years felt like. Ask Miami fans what it's like to live off national titles from 20 years ago. Clemson's struggles would be another program's glory days. And that's the heart of the issue. If Clemson fans keep pushing for Dabo to be replaced, they don't even realize what they're risking. Finding the next Dabo is almost impossible. You don't just stumble into a coach who can take a good program and turn it into a dynasty. That doesn't happen twice at the same school. History shows us that once you run off a legendary coach, you rarely get another one. Phil Fulmer was the face of Tennessee football for over a decade. He won a national championship in 1998 and consistently kept the Volunteers near the top of the SEC. Year after year, Fulmer produced 9 and 10-win seasons, developed NFL talent, and maintained one of the most competitive programs in the country. But after a few seasons that weren't perfect, a few losses that fell short of sky-high expectations, the fan base grew restless. Critics said the program had stagnated, and eventually the university let him go. What happened next shows the cost of moving on too quickly. Tennessee cycled through multiple coaches, none of whom could capture Fulmer's consistency or culture. Recruiting faltered, the program lost national relevance, and it took years just to stabilize. Fulmer had a set foundation that took decades to build, and leaving him behind disrupted everything he had created. It's a classic example of how firing a legendary coach for a few imperfect seasons can have long-term consequences. Pete Carroll's tenure at USC is another cautionary tale. Carroll arrived at a program that had been good, but he turned it into a dynasty. He won a national championship in 2003 and 2004, produced multiple Heisman winners, and cultivated a culture where winning wasn't just a goal, it was expected. USC dominated the Pac-10, and Carroll became one of the most respected coaches in college football. Yet even a dynasty has its critics. After a couple of seasons where USC fell short of the extremely high expectations, pressure started to mount. While Carroll eventually left for the NFL and achieved incredible success with the Seahawks, USC itself entered a long period of instability. Coaches came and went, recruiting suffered, and the program struggled to regain the consistent dominance Carroll had established. The lesson is clear. Even one of the most successful coaches in modern history faced the fallout of unrealistic expectations, and the program paid the price. Urban Meyer at Florida is the third example. Meyer took over a program that had potential and turned it into a national powerhouse almost immediately. He won 2 national championships, developed elite talent, and built a culture of winning that made Florida a feared program across the country. But once again, expectations shifted. A couple of down seasons, relatively minor by most standards, led to criticism and pressure from fans and boosters. Eventually, Meyer left Florida, and the program had to navigate years of inconsistency while trying to maintain the dominance he had created. And to this day, they still haven't recovered. The common thread between Fulmer, Carroll, and Meyer is clear. These were coaches who transformed their programs, set new standards, and created cultures of sustained excellence. Yet when expectations outpaced patience, programs lost stability. It's a warning for Clemson fans. Moving on from a legendary coach like Dabo could have similar long-term consequences. To really understand how remarkable Dabo's tenure at Clemson has been, it helps to look at the programs around him, especially the other schools in South Carolina and nearby. Take South Carolina, for example. They've had flashes of competitiveness under Steve Spurrier, but they haven't consistently competed for conference titles, let alone national championships. Seasons with 7 to 8 wins are considered successful, and making a playoff run? That's almost unheard of. Even with Spurrier's peak years, the Gamecocks never built a lasting culture of dominance. They've cycled through coaches, struggled with recruiting in state, and haven't come close to sustaining the level of success Clemson has achieved over the past decade. Looking at the Carolina landscape makes it crystal clear why Clemson fans should pause before even thinking about moving on from Dabo. He's not just winning games, he's building a program that's unmatched in the state, unmatched in the region, and competing at the very top nationally. Without him, it's hard to imagine any Carolina school coming close to this level for years to come. Imagine if Clemson were to get rid of Dabo and he landed at a place like Florida. Think about it. Florida has one of the deepest recruiting bases in the entire country, sits in the middle of the SEC, and has the tradition and resource to compete with anyone. And if Dabo could build a national powerhouse at Clemson, then just imagine what he could do in Gainesville. He's already shown he can create a dynasty from the ground up. Pair that track record with Florida's recruiting pipeline, and it's not hard to believe he could have them back in the playoff picture almost immediately. So Clemson fans, take a deep breath, stop acting like spoiled Alabama fans. Appreciate what you have before it's gone. Dabo Swinney has already given you more than you ever dreamed of. He built Clemson into a national power. He set the expectations so high that 10-win seasons are now disappointments. That's insane. He's not perfect. He'll have to adapt to the new world of college football. But the idea that Clemson should move on from him, that's not just wrong, it's a huge mistake. Because the day Dabo leaves Clemson is the day Clemson realizes just how special he really was.